I think that's something our society has got away from. We think a person's a Christian if their parents were Christians. We think a person's a Christian if they go to a church once in a while. But when the term was first used, to be a Christian meant that you talked and acted in a manner that was consistent with Jesus. To be a Christian was to be in some manner Christ-like. The reason the people in Antioch got called Christians is because they resembled Christ. Now, do you see what happens in the text when this group of people resembles Jesus? Luke tells us in verse 24, and a great number of people were brought to the Lord. I love that description. I love that description. Luke doesn't say, well, they were called Christians, and as a result, a few curious visitors joined into the group. Luke doesn't say that the membership of First Church in Antioch rose by 7%. No, Luke says a great number of people were brought to the Lord. How did this happen? Well, let me just say this. As a pastor, I've read a lot of books on evangelism, strategies for sharing the good news of the gospel. I've read a lot of books on church growth, how to get your congregation from 25, 35 people up to 75, 100, or maybe your church is 200 people. How do you get that to 5? I've read a lot of these books. But the best strategy for growth that I've ever read comes from the book of Acts. And as I read the book of Acts, the principle for church growth I see is this. When a group of people resemble Jesus, it irresistibly attracts other people to Jesus. When a group of people resembles Jesus Christ, it irresistibly attracts others to Jesus. Believing this, I want to suggest that pursuing Christ-likeness is the most important thing you can do as an individual. And it's the most important thing you can do as a congregation, as a gathering of God's people. Of course, there are other things you can do as a church. Churches do many things to promote their growth, but I would suggest nothing is more important than your pursuit of Christ. Well, what are some of the other things you could do? Well, for example, your new building is near completion. There's a mindset that, well, if we have a proper facility and the facility is a good location off the main road, that may attract some people. I looked at your facility. I love it. I'm impressed by it. I think the result of this building that's been erected and now being finished up, I think it will bring new people through your doors. I do believe some people will come in, they will visit, they will be curious about this gathering of God's people. And your hope, of course, is that the new facility will sufficiently impress them and cause them to stay with you. Your hope is that your service of worship done in that place will inspire them. But I would submit to you that the thing of much greater importance is that your level of Christ-likeness would compel it. That your level of Christ-likeness would compel it. I want you to have an inspiring service. I want you to have a beautiful building. But more than all of those things, I want you to resemble Christ more and more. How do we do this? Well, we live as Christ lived, which can be dissected in a number of ways, but some of the obvious ones. To live like Christ is to be kind and merciful. It's to forgive offenses. It's to turn the other cheek. It's time that we be unified as Christ enjoys the unity with the Father and the Spirit. Now is the time to build one another up in love and in service. It's not a time for division. It's a time for unity. Now is the time, as you prepare to move into a new facility, now is the time to work on the degree to which we resemble Jesus. The way we resemble Jesus with our words, with our manner, with our disposition, with the things we do or don't do. Now is the time to resemble Christ. So what's it going to take? In part, it will take an entire community of people who identify themselves as Christ followers above any other distinction, above our ethnicity, above our surname, above our vocation, above our nationality, above our political allegiance, above our social status, and so on. I sincerely believe that when belonging to Christ and becoming more like Him is your greatest distinction, I expect God will use this group mightily to draw people unto Him. I come on a Sunday morning and I see a modest gathering of people. But I see a modest gathering of people with great potential. I continue to see great potential here. Why? Because God wills to bring people near to Christ. And He will do that with a group of people who identify themselves first as Christ followers. Those who are committed to living like Him. It's easy. I get distracted by the many things the church is called to do. We've got a new building. There are many demands, getting windows in, and floors done, and pictures hung, and toilets installed, and refrigerators and appliances. It's easy to get distracted. Those things are important, no doubt. But the future of Kirk of the Pines does not hinge on your building. It does not hinge on your location. It does not hinge on your programs. It does not even hinge on your pastor, whom you don't yet have. The future of Kirk of the Pines hinges on the degree to which you resemble Christ. So I close this morning with the question I began. Who are you? The core of your being. Who are you? And if your answer is, I am a Christian, I encourage you to have that distinction influence every part of your day. More than anything else, we all need to be more